And actually, that makes total sense. Yeah. Because I know me.
And you don't have to understand my boundaries to respect them.
Well, no, I'm the president and co-founder of McShin, a person in long-term recovery from substance abuse disorder.
Oh, goodness. Like, okay. I gotta work on that.
Yeah.
Like,
Celebrating my 6 months. Didn't have a cake.
Yeah.
gosh, you showed up.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Get in the Herd. I'm your host for Women's Wednesday, Layla. And today we have a very special guest, my mother, Colleen Cosgriff. Hi, Mom.
Hi, babe.
She's all the way in South Carolina, and I'm in Virginia. So this is kind of fun.
Yes, totally fun.
She's got all her Christmas stuff up, as you can see. My mother has been in recovery for 33 years. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. My first convention was when I was a newborn, right?
Yes, that's true.
And you regretted that,
The
didn't
World
you?
Convention in Baltimore, Maryland.
But today I just kind of wanted my mom to share her story with everyone. So take it away, Mommy.
My story, huh? Well, I got to start out by saying, hi, I'm Colleen and I'm an addict, which is kind of just the way it is right now. I don't know. My story, huh, Boo?
Whatever you want to talk about.
It's interesting to share my story with you. All right, so my name's Colleen. I'm an addict. I got clean February 8th, 1989. I got clean in Long Island, New York. I've been in and out of the rooms for longer than 89. I started coming around. I'm not even sure. I make up a number every time, like somewhere in like 87. I started going to meetings. I started not being able to function. And in the middle of the night when I was high, I would call the operator. And I called the operator and I asked for help. And she gave me the NA helpline. And I used that number for a long time. I would call up when I felt like I was going to die. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. I would call them up and I would say, I need help. And they would talk to me. And back then, the New York region, I got clean in New York, like I said. Back then, the New York region was a room with people in it and telephones 24/7. So other addicts were in there answering the phone for us, which was like pretty amazing when I think about it now. Back then, it just seemed like, well, thank goodness. But they would always talk me down. And then they would tell me that they would meet me at a meeting the next day. And I would never show up. But I kept using that number over and over again for a really long time. See how important I am? The fire trucks came. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really loud.
Yeah, that was really loud. Yeah. Anyway, I used that number for a long time. And then I started going to meetings. But I wasn't ready. So I went to like the same meeting every weekend. I would be high before I went there and I would get high when I left. And it was the same guy standing in front of the room every weekend. And he always wore all black. And I had no idea, like my story's about Narcotics Anonymous. That's where I got clean. That's how I've stayed clean. That's how my whole recovery has gone. So I had no idea like what Narcotics Anonymous was. I had no idea that it was worldwide. I didn't know that there was going to be a world convention in Baltimore. I didn't know that there were meetings even in New York City. I just thought that this guy started Narcotics Anonymous and that he was like Mr. NA. So anyway, I went there for a long time without getting clean. And, you know, after a while, you start picking up the lingo. You don't understand it, but you start using it to manipulate people. I'm sure other people in this room can identify. And, so, sorry. I threw because Layla did that, you know, so like that's part of my story.
Yeah.
Is, you know, Layla being like, oh, I went to a meeting and yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just kept coming and I kept using, and like I look back at it now and I'm really, really grateful that I just kept coming because you know I very easily couldn't be here today. So one night I was going out with someone that I love, a friend of mine that I used with, and we got really loaded as always. And I remember looking at her and I had someone else's car. I didn't have my kids with me, or I left my kids at the house. She had my kids. I had been there for the whole weekend. We've been partying all weekend. I didn't own a car. I lived in a basement apartment. I already left my husband because he was the problem. And I was wanting to go out. They wanted to stay home with the kids that night. I took their car. I told them, I remember saying, don't worry. I'm just going to have one drink. Like, don't worry about it. And like, one of the things that Narcotics Anonymous taught me is that alcohol is a drug. I don't separate like what I use. Like I focus on the disease of addiction. So that's like my background. So I went out and I remember looking at my friend and saying, I can't see. I'm seeing double and I have to leave. And I think about that like today, and that blows my mind that someone let me get in the car and drive away. To make a long story longer, I ended up taking down a fence with someone else's car. People pulled me out of the car. They asked me where I was going. They drove me around for hours because I couldn't remember where my friend lived until I became more coherent. They told me the car was fine because I kept obsessing on how the car was. And I got back to their house and I told them that the car was fine, but I didn't know where it was. And it took us about 2 days to find the car, or longer or less. I don't even know. But when they found the car, it was an old station wagon, and there was a pole. It was like one of those fence poles that you have two poles, and then the two poles going this way. And I had taken down the whole side, and one of the fence poles was embedded in the front of my station wagon. It broke through the battery, not my station wagon. It cracked the battery in half, and the other one was sitting next to me in the front seat. It went right through the windshield. I remember when I was sitting there, not thinking, like that pole almost went through my head because it was like inches away. I remember sitting there and thinking, like, I got to buy these people a new car. Like, I have to fix this car. Anyway, we got the car, and I remember calling up my sister-in-law who was going to Narcotics Anonymous with me. And I told her that I relapsed. Like I said, I had learned the lingo already. And she said, you never got clean, asshole, and hung up on me. And like, she was going to NA meetings with me too. And neither one of us were clean. We were using in the parking lot and talking about everybody. We were talking about that we thought you were full of crap. We were talking about that the guys were cute. We were talking about all the stuff that you're not supposed to talk about. And I went to a meeting that night. And it was the first time I had gone to a Friday night meeting. And I was a mess. And I have really big hair naturally. And my hair was sticking out like a pyramid. My hair was like very, very long. And it was
Thanks
like
for
really,
passing
really
that
straight.
down to me, by the way.
Yes, you're very, very welcome. And I reeked, I smelled, and I didn't look good. And I was very sick. And I raised my hand and I said that I needed help. And I did the whole drama queen thing. Like, I didn't walk in here today. I crawled in here. I'm so low. Like, the dogs are crying.
I know. Is that Alvin or Zuzu?
It's Alvin. They do this to me every time I'm on a Zoom meeting. It's really
It's
annoying.
okay.
But anyway, basically this woman shared after me and she said, I really admire you. I admire your courage. I admire you. And I asked you to be my sponsor. And so like when I share my experience, strength, and hope, I don't like to get caught up in my addiction because we all know what that's like. I can tell you that I married my dealer. I can tell you that I used until I puked, and then I used some more, that I didn't take care of my children properly. I did everything that you guys did. I stole from people. I was not like a thief where I would go and rob a bank, but I would steal from people that I knew. I'm sorry. I have to shut this.
Intermission.
Yes, I'm sorry. My neighbors are in the yard, and I'm not okay with sharing my experience, strength, and hope with the hood. So it's like all of a sudden I just saw them walk by the window. I'm like, okay. My addiction brought me to, it brought me to places that, like, I don't know. I feel like I got to live like this second life. Like the life that I live today and the life that I live now are very different. I didn't clean my house. I didn't have curtains. I had sheets. I didn't have walls. We had plywood. We had, plywood floors. We didn't ever we bought a wrecked house and we were going to fix it up. And we ended up just living in this wrecked house. I lived with another family. I lived with my brother and his wife and their child. And this is going to drive me crazy. He won't stop crying.
Put him on your lap.
What, honey?
You can hold him on your lap. He can be in it.
You want to come up? He's just being a jerk. Come on. He's too fat for jump. Come on. You want to come up? Layla said, come up. Layla's on here. Oh, Hudson's like, Layla's on here? Come here,
my
baby.
dog. My
Anyways,
parents have
here
my
I'm sharing
dog.
my experience, strength, and hope in conversating with people. That's like not what I'm like. It's kind of is weird, and having a dog whine at my feet is really strange. So forgive me, everybody.
You're doing
Anyway,
great.
bottom line is I couldn't use it anymore, and I found myself this day asking for help. And she told me, go to 90 meetings in 90 days. She told me to read the literature. She bought me a basic text. She gave it to me. She gave me IPs. She told me to read them. I already had them. I cleaned my weed on them. I never read them. I just used them to clean weed. She told me to get phone numbers and to call someone every day. She told me to get a commitment. And everything that she offered me, I kind of had an answer to. She told me, call her for a ride. And I said, I don't have a telephone. And she said, how did you cop? And I said, I walked to the payphone. And she flipped me a quarter and said, walk to the payphone. Then it was like I became mother of the year. I was like, I have kids. I can't go to a meeting. My kids were 6 and 3. I was living in a basement apartment. I was sleeping on the floor. Didn't have rent. I was getting evicted. I had no food in my refrigerator. My kids had a bed, and that was the only thing that was in there. And it was only in there because my mom bought it. She bought them a Trumbull bed because she was mortified that my kids were sleeping on the floor. And suddenly I have excuses why I don't want to go to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. I look back at it now and it blows me away, but the disease of addiction had me. I was in the grips, but at the same time, it was like this moment of clarity, like the gift of desperation. So I did what she told me to do. I called her every single day, and she would ask me every single day, did you get high today? And I would say yes, because it's an honest program. And I was all proud of myself. And I just kept calling, and she kept picking me up. And if she couldn't pick me up, she would tell me who else to call. And I would bring the kids to meetings, and people would get up and take care of them because my kids at this point in their life were existing on Barney and peanut butter jars. I wasn't taking care of them. People would come over to my house to cop, and they would have to feed my children. So now I'm in a meeting with them, and people are teaching me. They're not telling me, they're not ridiculing me. They're teaching me by example on what to do with my kids. And I just kept getting high, and I kept going to meetings. And one day she said to me, I'm going to tell you how to stay clean. I'm going to tell you the deal. And I thought, this is it. This is finally it. This is the secret of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm all ready. Go ahead. Give it to me. And she said, Colleen, if you don't pick up, you won't get high. And it was just the most profound light bulb thing that ever happened to me before in my life. And I didn't get high the next day. She told me to hang out with a recovering addict. So there was this guy, Vinny, who was really hot that I really thought was a TV high. And I asked Vinny what he was doing the next day. And he said that he was going to court. And that's only attractive to a girl in Narcotics Anonymous, I got to tell you. So I was like, oh, you going to court? Can I come? So Vinny picked me up and drove me to court. And so what I was doing was I was taking my kids every single day over to their dad's house and putting them on the school bus there. I would either take a cab or take a bus. I had a cab driver that I knew from childhood that absolutely loved me, and he would give me free cab rides. And I would go over there and I would get high, and then I would leave, and then I would come back and get the kids again. So he picked me up, dropped my kids off, and I went to court with Vinny. And the whole time he talked about his fiance, and he talked about God, and he talked about meetings, and he talked about steps, and he talked about the grips, and he talked about the disease of addiction, and he talked about how to stay clean. He talked about the pain of using. Nothing about hey, Colleen, do you want to go out to dinner tonight? Nothing like that. But I listened, and I heard him, and I heard him talk about prayer, and I heard him talk about God. And I made it to a meeting that night again, because I was going every day, and I got my first day clean. And that was February 8th, 1989. And I'll tell you what, truly by the grace of God, I have not used again. But see, God placed me here, but God also told me there are things that you have to do, And one of the things that I was told is to have a sponsor. And one of the things that I hear all the time is if you don't have a sponsor, you're being sponsored by an asshole. Sorry, I cursed. Because anybody can sponsor you better than you can sponsor yourself. And I had that woman, I had that sponsor, and she guided me. And the change, I can stay clean, I can stop using, I can do everything differently, but the internal change isn't going to come until I start doing the step work. And that's what you guys taught me. You told me to pray for a slow recovery, that Rome wasn't built in a day, that things don't happen overnight. You told me to write down my dreams and goals where I thought I would be in a year. Where I ended up in a year was nowhere nowhere where I thought I could possibly be, you know, just by going to meetings, by making phone calls. They told me to make a meeting every single day. If my ass fell off, pick it up, put it in a paper bag and bring it to a meeting. They told me to bring my kids to a meeting. They told me to get commitments. I did a 90 and 90, and I did way more than 90 meetings in 90 days. I was lucky enough where I was able to go to like 2 meetings on Saturday and 3 on Friday. And I mean, if you know, there was one at 6 o'clock on Thursday, one at 8 o'clock on Thursday. I went to the 6 o'clock one. I dragged my kids from that all the way to the 8 o'clock meeting, and I went every day. And my 90 and 90 continued after my 90 days. It didn't stop because my life was changing so amazingly. Just being clean and not just, and it's not like I didn't have any pain anymore. I had pain, but I was learning how to deal with it. I was getting tools, and I had a support group, and I had people that I loved and trusted. And, you know, some of those people I know where they are today, and some I don't. And many of them are dead, and many of them don't come around anymore. And I'm really grateful that I put the work in when I first got here to still be here. So I made meetings every day, and I cried all the time. I cried all the time. They called me the Lady of Misery. I just cried and cried and cried. I never thought I was going to get out of where I was. I didn't even understand like how people paid rent. Like I couldn't grasp my mind around it. I didn't know how to make my bed. I didn't know how to be a mom. I didn't know how to do anything. So because of you guys, you know, my husband was living deep in his addiction, and I would bring my kids there every weekend, and it was like a free weekend for me. Oh, he got the kids on the weekend, and I got to go out and party with NA. Like I would go to meetings, then we'd go to the diner, and then we'd hang out and talk, and then we'd go to another meeting the next morning. Then I'd go over so-and-so's house for dinner, and then we would go out to dinner. People took me out to dinner. People put money in my cigarette packs. People put money in my basic text. People gave me jobs, you know, cleaning their house or whatever. I did anything and everything that I was told. If you told me to stand on my head, I stood on my head. And I brought those kids over there, and I started getting phone calls from my family telling me how bad Kevin was. I'm petting my dog while I'm talking so he doesn't cry. How bad my husband was, and like how dangerous it was for me to send the kids over there. I had already been separated for almost a year from him, and I stopped bringing the kids there. I called him up and I asked to meet him. And of course he wanted to meet me at a bar, and I did. I met him at this restaurant bar. My sponsor knew I was going, and I told him that I was worried about him, that I thought that he was going to die. And that people were calling me and telling me what he was doing and how he was living. He was climbing trees. He couldn't walk down the street. He was sitting in his window with loaded rifles. He was very, very paranoid. So people told me that if I left my children with him, that I was now going to be accountable and responsible, that I was clean. And if anything happened to my kids while they were with him, that it was going to be just as bad as if I harmed them myself. So I stopped bringing the kids over there. May I take him outside?
Yeah,
Thank you.
go
Come
for
on,
it.
let's go. Come on, let's go.
Pugs are very vocal.
Let's get a treat.
My parents have 3 pugs. Yeah. A lot of pugs to have.
Come on, let's go. Come on, everybody. Not too much. We're gonna stay in here. Come on, Alvin. Alvin and Susan. Hudson, stay. Hudson, stay. Alvin, Susan. Come on. Susan, you want a treat? Okay, Susan. Alvin. Okay, you're staying out here. Here, Hudson. There you go. Go lay down.
Here at McShin, we believe in the McShin way, which is authentic recovery support service providers, people with lived experience, bringing that experience to those who need that lived experience in recovery.
Here at McShin, we believe in many things to support our mission. We believe in women empowerment.
What I love most about what we believe here at McShin is we believe in the authenticity of the peer-to-peer approach.
Here at the McShin Foundation, we believe in giving people opportunity.
Here at McShin, we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
At the McShin Foundation, we believe in helping people reach their full potential.
Here at the McShin Foundation, we believe in multiple pathways to recovery.
Here at McShin, we believe in placing principles before personalities to help spread hope.
Here at McShin, we believe that recovery is possible and that any person seeking recovery can become a more acceptable, responsible, and productive member of society.
Here at the McShin Foundation, we believe in self-discovery.
Here at McShin, we believe in saving lives and offering second chances.
Here at McShin, we believe you can do this.
Here at McShin Foundation, we believe that we can only keep what we have by giving away, which is why we continue to help others like us seek and find recovery.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Sorry about that.
All right. Do you know where you left off? You want to continue from there?
I do know where I left off. I left off about not leaving my kids with him anymore. And it was a really difficult decision. I actually called his sister and told her that, he was in danger, that it wasn't, he was using and he was going to die. He was 29 years old. And I ended up getting that phone call. I was in a meeting one night and I wasn't feeling okay. And I called my sponsor and she told me to go to, to meet her after the meeting. And I was crying and I couldn't stop crying. And I was worried about him. And I said a lot of things to her that I really believe that my higher power, God, set me up to say, because I let her know that I loved him, because I talked how I hated him, that I loved him, but I wasn't in love with him, that he was a good man. He was just a sick man. I finally got that he had a disease of addiction. I was in an abusive relationship. We beat each other. I just always lost. I had black eyes, broken noses. It was not a good place. And I was able to just say out loud that I love him, but it's not he's not mine. He's the father of my children. And when I got home that night with my kids, because my kids are always at me, with me in a meeting, the phone rang at midnight as I was walking in the door, and it was this brutal, thunder and lightning. The dog, Hudson. It was this brutal night of thunder and lightning, and I'm carrying my oldest daughter in, Erin, and my mom's coming out to carry out my other one, and the phone rings, and it was Kevin's sister, and he was 29 years old, and he died of an overdose. He was having a paranoia schizophrenic moment, and he ate an 8 ball of cocaine and his heart blew up. The police came and he was armed and they could not treat him. The ambulance could not get in, and he just collapsed at the top of the stairs. He had threatened everybody in the house, so everyone left him. He trashed his room with a machete. He destroyed everything, and he was gone. He was 29 years old. I had 59 days clean. And because I had been so embedded in Narcotics Anonymous, because I had taken all those suggestions about 90 meetings in 90 days and having a sponsor, someone who I called 3 times a day already, that I ran everything by, because I had that kind of relationship with her, because everybody knew me there. I was already eating in people's homes and going to the dining with them and going bowling and learning how to have, happy Friday nights. I knew what to do. My mother, I started, losing my mind, and my mom said, call your sponsor. And I did. And the next day, all that was important to me was to get my 60-day key tag, because I knew without that, I wasn't going to be able to take care of my kids. And, suggestions are just suggestions.
Sorry, I hear
People say it
Hudson
all the time.
growling.
Isn't that weird? This is just the weirdest experience I've ever had sharing. Hudson, can you stop it?
That's my dog.
Yes, it's your dog, and I don't know what he wants. But
Put him
people
in
are
it.
like, yeah, suggestions. The suggestions saved my life. My sponsor used to tell me all the time, you can take them or you're not take them, but you have to be willing to pay all the consequences. And I'm grateful that I took them. I'm grateful that I had a sponsor. I'm grateful that I made 90 meetings in 90 days. I'm grateful that I had a support group. Those suggestions saved my life, and they saved the lives of my children. Because if they were there that night, I don't know what would have happened. And they would have been there that night because it was a Friday night and I wanted to go to meetings without them. And I would drop them off until you guys told me not to. So I don't know, like a lot's happened between that night with 59 days clean and today. Like Narcotics Anonymous, being clean doesn't stop me from life on life's terms. If you don't pay your phone bill, your phone's going to get shut off. Lots of trials and tribulations and lots of joy. Like I said before, I feel like I've lived 2 different lives. I got married very, very soon after. I got married in very early recovery. I met my husband, and I don't recommend this, but it's just my story. I met my husband. We started dating when I had 4.5 months clean, and we've been married. I got married the following year, so we're married 32 years. And again, not without a lot of, we went through the gamut, there's a lot that happened, but what happened in between that is that I learned how to be a productive member of society, that I show up. I'm an active member of the fellowship. I show up, I sponsor women. I do step work. I do service. I love doing service work. I'm a huge people person. Like Narcotics Anonymous is my heart. I got to tell you, I used to walk around when I was using and ask people to hug me. I would hold a pillow over my chest and they'd be in my house and everyone would be like out of their minds. But I would be like, I feel like my heart was going to pound out of my chest. And I would walk up to them and say, would you hug me? Now they're in my house getting high. They're here to cop and then they never leave, And so they're not going to say no to me, but I would get like these like one arm things. Okay, like go, get away from me. Everyone's like all wired out of their brains, And I came to Narcotics Anonymous, and you guys started hugging me. Like it's mind blowing that you guys were here waiting for me. Like that moment of silence, that prayer that happens before any of us get here. That prayer was for me. That prayer is for you. It was for you, Layla. That prayer was for you before I even knew it. Like Layla said, she went to her first convention with me. There's lots of things I would do differently, but that's the journey that I had to take. Taking a 29-day-old baby to the World Convention in Baltimore probably wasn't the most brightest thing I've ever done in my recovery. I remember hanging a 30-day key tag on her stroller because she was 30 days old,
Really?
and like wheeling her
That's
through,
funny.
the World Convention. But that's what we did. That's what we did then. We lived, ate, and inhaled it nonstop. I'm told lots of things from the time that I got here, and I still apply those. And I was told anything I put before my recovery, I better be willing to lose. And I took that to heart. Meetings came before my family for a very, very long time. It wasn't until I learned how to make my family part of my recovery that I was able to flip that switch. I had a healthy fear of dying, and I didn't want to die. And I dragged my kids to meetings for a very long time. A resentment they have, all of them, all 3 of them, even though right now I have 2 kids in recovery. It's still a resentment that they all seem to have. And that's okay because
I don't have it.
I'm glad that you don't have it. Thanks, Boo. Well, you had your sisters too, like that they got to stay home with you. But hell, one of our daughters wrote a book called An Addict's Daughter. I hope it gets published one day because it's a phenomenal book. Not thrilled to death that it's from her eyes. When I first read it, I tried to correct it. No, that's not true. No, that's not true. Like, we're embedded in Narcotics Anonymous. I got NA bumper stickers all over my car. I wear NA t-shirts everywhere I go. I have posters hanging up in my kitchen. I have shelves with NA mugs lined up everywhere. I have World Convention posters, or I have like our veggies don't do drugs, and all over our fireplace, NA plaques and all kinds of stuff. And one day our daughter came to us and she said, I don't want to invite friends over. this was pre-Layla, right before, probably like a year or two before Layla. And I was like, why not? And she's like, because when people see our bumper stickers, they want to know what NA is. And like all of a sudden it hit my husband and I that our daughter has anonymity. Like I may not have anonymity, but our daughter does. And she deserved to be anonymous. She didn't have to, wave the addict flag to everybody and let everyone know that her parents were in recovery. We took all that stuff down. Like we let her, find her way with that. And we took all that, we packed all our mugs away. We put some in the cabinet. We took the posters down. We took the bumper stickers off the car. Still wear the NA shirts, but, not to an elementary school function like I used to, But again, that was like the journey that I had to take. I have a sponsor. I have the same sponsor for the past 25 years. I feel very blessed that I have that like long-term relationship. I still write step work. I still apply the traditions and steps in my life in and out. I sponsor a lot of women. I do step work with them. I still do service. Everything that I did in the beginning, I still do now. I don't go to 90 meetings in 90 days anymore. My life doesn't allow it. But because of Narcotics Anonymous, I have stuff like I get to drive my grandchildren to school. I got to have my mom move in with me. I took great advantage of my mom. I took great advantage of her in early recovery and using. And it was a real gift to be able to give it back to her just because I love her, just because of who she is. And my mom lived with us for a couple of years. Unfortunately, she is presently in hospice. So she's in a nursing home. She fell at my house less than a year ago and never came home. So she doesn't, just yesterday, I try and go there every day. I probably miss a day every 5 or 6 days because it's almost too much for me right now. But I know that she needs me to show up. But just yesterday, she didn't know who I was. She doesn't know who I am anymore half the time. So I was like, do you know who I am? And she was like, yes. And I'm like, who am I? And she didn't answer. And I said, you're my mom. And she was like, no way, I'm not your mom. And I was like, okay. And on other days, she calls me her mom. I wouldn't be able to show up if it wasn't for Narcotics Anonymous. You guys taught me how to give back. You taught me how to make amends. You taught me how to be a caring, loving human being. I don't know. This disease sucks. And Narcotics Anonymous rocks. That's just my story. Like, I've learned how to have so much joy here. Using sucks, man. If you want to use, go to a meeting and share about it. If you go to a meeting and you just sit there and you're not letting people know what's going on, no one's going to get to know you. Pick a fellowship and stick with it. I don't care what fellowship you go to, but make yourself a home so people know. If you're not in your home group, they're going to give you a call and find out where you are. If you don't have a home group, get one. If you don't have a sponsor, get one. If you're not making phone calls today, use them, because you're not different than anybody else. And this works if you work it. I mean, it's the therapeutic value of one addict helping another. And if you're not out there putting yourself in the middle, you're gonna get pinched off. We just lost a friend of ours. She was using. No one knew that she was using. She wasn't going to meetings anymore. She was still calling a sponsor, still doing step work. And on Thursday night, she put a gun to her head in front of her husband with her grandchildren and children in the home. And she was an active member of this fellowship for a decade. And she just stopped going to meetings and was dealing with depression. She had severe depression and she wasn't asking for help. Ask for help. Like, you don't have to be that person. You don't have to be Kevin. You don't have to, die in your home without being able to be helped because everyone's afraid to come in and help you. You don't have to be Gina.
You don't have to crash your car on purpose.
You don't have to crash your car on purpose. Yeah. You don't, Like I mean, like I said, I have 2 daughters in recovery. I mean, I can't sit here, in 40 minutes. And first of all, I find it very difficult to share on this kind of platform. That's always been an issue for me since Zoom. I think I need the energy of the people. I feel the energy of the people when I'm in a room. And I find it very, very difficult to share on this kind of platform. But I do it because I'm asked to do it, and I'm very, very grateful. Very grateful. My daughter sits behind that microphone because of the McShin Foundation. My husband, Layla asked for help. It wasn't the first time that she asked, and she asked for help again. And my husband picked up the phone and called his sponsor, and his sponsor called other people and got us in touch here. And within 24 hours, I was dropping my kid off at your door. And
hardest thing I've ever done. But
hardest thing I
best
ever did,
thing.
and the best thing I ever did. And I am really, really grateful for that. You know, when it comes to my family, all bets are off. It's not the same as me helping a newcomer because she's my daughter. I'm not her sponsor. I'm not a Narcotics Anonymous member to her.
Sometimes she thinks she is.
Well, maybe you should try getting one. And then I wouldn't have to be one. So, you know, it drives me crazy that you
I'm
don't have a
working on
sponsor.
it, okay?
No, there's no. You're going to have 90 days clean.
Now
At
we're
this
gonna
point,
fight.
we're not going to fight. I'm going to tell you the truth that at this point, it's bull crap that you don't have a sponsor. And if everyone that is on this podcast doesn't bust your ass, someone needs to poke you in the
Will
chest.
someone sponsor me? It's hard to find one.
Well, no, you need someone that's going to make you go to meetings, 90 meetings in 90 days, and write the steps. So someone out there in Narcotics Anonymous, step up, poke this girl in the chest, man.
Jeez Christ.
No, yeah. What did you think was going to happen? Seriously, you know who I am.
Oh, I certainly do.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. I am so proud of you.
Thank
you. But I didn't write the 12 steps and traditions, baby girl. They were written before me, you know. And I follow them, and I'm proud of this foundation, man. I think it's incredible what you guys do. I was blown away when I came there and I got a tour. I'm eternally grateful. For John, for Carol, for Christina, for Moses, for the people that I met. I'm eternally grateful, and I will carry that in my heart forever.
Yeah. Oh, where'd she go?
I feel like I'm rambling. Do you want to ask me something?
Oh, you disappeared. Yeah. Well, something weird happened with the camera.
Yeah.
Well,
when my phone rings, it comes across the screen.
Well, I just wanted to say, growing up in NA with parents in recovery, I was annoyed about it for a long time, I think. Yeah. Like, why can't you be cool? Like, oh, I wish my
I'm so
drank.
cool.
No, you're the coolest mom ever. You're the best mom in the world. And dad is the best dad in the world. But, I mean, like, well, going to events in Narcotics Anonymous, especially, like, in elementary years, I loved it. You know, like, we would go to campouts and stuff, and everyone, the people that I met when I was younger are like still my family. They're like my aunts and my uncles.
Yes.
More than some of my biological aunts and uncles. And I used to get really upset. I remember when you would leave me with Erin and Tara to go to meetings in Concord when we lived in New Hampshire. But you always brought me back a Betty spaghetti from Walmart. Remember that? But no, I mean, once I got into high school, you were definitely a little bit more hardcore. You know, I definitely did some questionable things with the drinking in high school. And I felt like you were a little harder on me than other parents. But looking back now, I'm really grateful. I mean, I've never ever seen my mom high or drunk. She's always been so strong, and it's really cool to have someone like that to look up to throughout my entire life. Like, I've never seen you messed up ever. That's really cool. That's really rare. And I'm going to be 29. And I don't know, you and dad have showed me an incredible example of unconditional love. And everyone in Narcotics Anonymous has. But yeah, I love you, and you're the best mom ever. And I'm so glad that you came on here.
I love you too, and you're an incredible human being. You're very courageous, you know. You're very courageous. I know when you left high school and you went to California to pursue your acting career, I was blown away by your courage. I could have never done that at your age, you know. I was blown away. And I mean, you have some really cool experiences already in your life to put under your belt, and you have your whole life ahead of you now, you know, your whole life ahead of you that you can do whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's pick flowers, you know, or pursue something else. It's whatever you want. It's pretty cool. It's pretty good.
That is true, and that's something that getting clean made me realize there's a lot of time ahead of me.
Yeah, there is a lot of time ahead of you. You know, I mean, this is a very hard time for our family. You put me through the ringer. You know, no, really, seriously, like, I mean, like all like, powerlessness and turning it over to God and all that stuff went out the window when you were out there. I just wanted to fix and save, and my codependency out of control, like out of control. And like I said, I'm grateful I have a sponsor who kept putting me back, on my 6th and 7th step over and over and over again, and helping me write prayers. And I mean, like letting go. And the truth of the matter is it's an illusion. Control is an illusion. And I know that, but it just changed for me with you. And I'm so grateful that I sleep at night now. Thank you, McShin Foundation. Thank you, Narcotics Anonymous. Like, I sleep at night now, that I know that you're safe and okay. And that's pretty awesome. That's your dog.
That's my dog.
He thinks he's a pit bull.
Well,
so
I'm
going to stop him from barking. Hold on. I'm going to block you. Thank you.
He stopped. All right. Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Mom.
Oh, it was so awkward. I feel so awkward. It feels like it was...
I mean, it's a podcast. They kind of are awkward sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Just
I'm still getting comfortable with it. You did awesome. And you are the best mom in the whole world.
And you are an incredible human being. You're one of my closest friends.
Yeah, you're my bestie.
I love you so much. I have 3 daughters, so I have 3 besties.
And we're all very close.
We
Some
are.
may say too close.
I don't know. And I mean,
not if you ask my mom.
Her sister just celebrated 3 years also.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, here we are.
Here we are. It's a family disease, man, and we can recover together too.
Yeah, and we are.
Now you're in there with the guy that's videotaping?
Well, usually Art is here. Steve? Yeah. Steve is
Hi,
here,
Steve.
and then there is someone listening as well.
Great.
But
hi, guys.
I feel like we're around 42 minutes now. So I guess we can go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks for coming on the show, Mom. I will see you in 2 weeks. And I love you
wait.
so much. And I'll call you probably in a couple minutes.
Okay, that would be perfect.
All
I love you so much.
right.
Thanks
I
for
love
having
you
me,
too.
kid. Thank you,
Bye.
McShin.
Still there.
I don't know what to do. How do I get out of here? Can you hang up?